Here.
Mrs. Soshinek,
Here.
Mr. Ceniceros,
Here.
Mrs. Contreras,
Here.
and Mrs. Burnett.
Here.
Thank you. We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we'll ask for a moment of silence. It's also a good time to silence your cell phones. Thank you. So we're now at board member statements. Is there any board member statements? Yes.
I just wanted to report out that my kid's dentist bill I'll be sending it to the district because we attended Collier's trunk or treat, Littleton's trunk or treat, and Fine Arts trunk or treat all in one day. And it was amazing to see the community out and everyone engaged, and the amount of candy my kids came home with was amazing as well. So thank you to all of the staff who put on such amazing events for our community, and it was just heartwarming to see all the families out there participating and talking to each other.
Yes.
That's amazing, Amy. Thank you, Madam President. Well, good evening, Littleton community. I first want to start by recognizing that this week is National Trans Awareness Week. This is the time that we recognize and support one of our most marginalized community, which is our trans community. I stand with our trans students, teachers, and staff, along with the families who identify with that in our community. Additionally, November is American Indian Heritage Month, prompting a reflection on the history of the land that we all sit on. In the past month, I attended various events, including the Maricopa County ASBA meeting, along with Dr. Freeman. Congratulations to Sofia Corredor, who ran for re-election, and she won as our county director. I also visited Estrella Vista and celebrated the achievements at the First Friday Assembly. And I also wanted to say thank you to our voters for passing not only the continuation of our override, continuation overwhelmingly by almost 60%, but also passing the Phoenix Go Bond. So the Littleton community can expect within the next year or two to see a thing called the Estrella Civic Center, which is going to be located off 99th and Lower Buckeye, which is going to be composed of a branch library, an aquatic center, and a community center. This is finally going to be something that bringing needed amenities back to our community. And in ending, I want to just wish everybody a restful upcoming Thanksgiving break.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you all. I want to acknowledge that November is also Family Court Awareness Month. I had an opportunity to attend the Maricopa Domestic Violence Awareness event earlier this month, and it was really amazing. I think this is very important because within our community, 1 in 3 children will be living in a household where domestic violence occurs. So at this time, I want to acknowledge that and to acknowledge that the supports are available and that Littleton is really at the forefront of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So now I have a statement, and it is with great honor, humility, and appreciation that the governing board of the Littleton District has the opportunity to congratulate Dr. Freeman for being awarded the 2023 Arizona Superintendent of the Year. Since he started serving as the superintendent of our district, I've been fortunate to work alongside him, and if I may say, I also was part of a group that hired him. So it is with great privilege that he is dedicated to his time and effort on developing, growing, and leading our community's educational efforts to the respected levels that we see today. Through that, there's not only been challenges and smiles, but he works very hard, probably 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You just don't see him doing it. With that, he also has served on countless state and community boards while also working with the Arizona legislature to ensure our students receive the best educational opportunities that they deserve. He's very well known with legislators. where that's good or bad. Sometimes it depends on what we're arguing for. Yes. Dr. Freeman has a remarkable proactive approach to know how to ensure the Littleton district always has what it needs to prepare for challenging times as well as to succeed at high levels during others. Students, staff, community, and governing board of the Littleton community are so fortunate to have Dr. Freeman as our superintendent and to be able to have him recognized as the 2023 Arizona Superintendent of the Year. Dr. Freeman, thank you, and on behalf of the board, thank you for all that you do. And he has a plaque. And it says, Arizona School Administrators recognize Dr. Roger Freeman as the Arizona Superintendent of the Year, representing Arizona in the AASA National Superintendent of the Year. He is the superintendent for the state of Arizona, which is such an honor. Now he'll go on to compete at the national, so let's wish him luck.
Thank you.
Oh, you want a picture? Here we go. Yes.
All right. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, everyone here tonight. Good evening. Buenas tardes a todos. The Littleton District recognizes the importance of the role that families play in the success of their children, our students, and that's why having our families as partners is one of our governing board's guiding principles. So as partners, we want to thank you, our families, who took time to mail or drop off their ballot last week. We know it's challenging for parents to work, run a home, and be parenting all at the same time. Voting supports our democracy and sets a good example for our students. We also know majority of our active voters are grandparent age. So we want to thank all of you as well. On average, just about a fourth of all households have kids in schools. So support of our broader community is really appreciated. As partners, thank you for your trust and your support for our schools. Our election passed, as Member Sancero said, by over 59%, almost 60, and that's more than the high school district, not that we're a little competitive. I was really worried because of how much inflation has been impacting everyone and all of the bond questions that were up ballot. So I feel very grateful about the support from the electorate that we all got. I think too, is not the park next to Country Place part of the bond package to do that improvement on that big vacant lot?
The 93 acre behind the Target on 99.
Did our little park get left out again?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
The big one, not the little one.
There are many things. Our election, let's see, where I feel grateful. Oh, I heard a speaker the other night. He talked about how divided we seem politically. But his point was that we've always been, from the founding of our country, divided. And there are many things that the Arizona Center for the Future, along with Phi Delta Kappa, found that the majority of Arizonans support by more than 75%. There were two that really stood out to me in the area of education, and those were 92% of respondents from all over the state rated it very important that all Arizona public schools have enough highly qualified teachers and principals, and 89% of respondents selected that they strongly agree or totally agree that every student in Arizona deserves an excellent education, regardless of their family income, race, ethnicity, disability, language, or zip code. The approval of the budget override continuation means that we'll be able to continue to offer full-day kindergarten, to lowering class sizes to help support effective levels of instruction, support teacher and staff salary levels that attract and help us retain staff, providing special area programs such as art, music, and PE, and provide after-school programs like our clubs and our athletics. And most importantly, it helps us to continue having high-quality programs and schools in our local neighborhoods. We also want to thank our families for attending the parent-teacher-student conferences. These conferences help parents understand what their kids are learning, their learning style, their strengths, their weaknesses, and how they can support their child's learning at home. Honest dialogue at the conferences supports communication that builds strong bonds of trust and respect between the school and the home and the home and the school. Our overall participation rate was roughly 83% this fall. It's up 1% from last year, but it's still below where we were before the pandemic. We really want to see that percentage up into the mid-90s in the future. As one of our parents at Collier said, "My child explained to us how good he is at reading and writing, and we were able to see his goals and actual assignments that show his progress." Another parent wrote, "Student-led conference gave my child the opportunity to self-reflect while educating me on how he is doing. It also gave him a new skill in PowerPoint and allowed him to showcase creativity. He was able to accept ownership on where he could improve, and I really enjoyed that." At Country Place, students shared their progress on their wildly important goals and showed off their leadership notebook. Their leadership is reflected in parental participation, which was almost 100%, mid-90s. And at Lakin, students shared their progress on their new goal for second quarter. The Lions took the lead on parent conferences with 96% participation. Congratulations to them. The Littleton STEM Academy reported that they had parents attending conferences via phone and Zoom, and they were glad to hear our families are still taking advantage of digital tools if they're available, as well as attending in person. Trace Rios teachers followed up on phone conferences with the families that weren't able to attend in person so they could get even closer to the 100% goal. These are great examples, but please let our principals know if there's anything else we can do to increase conference engagement. On another topic, we had a long weekend observance of Veterans Day. Ever since the end of the First World War, this day has had many names, but it has always held a profound significance as a time to honor the sacrifices made by our military personnel and as an opportunity for our community to come together in appreciation and reflection. I've seen a lot of great posts on Facebook from the activities in our schools, so I'm looking forward to being able to report on those when we meet again next month. Last month was National Bullying Prevention Month, and the official National Bullying Prevention Month was created in 2006 by the National Bullying Prevention Center, and then the National PTA and the center came together to campaign, release resources, aids, and highlight the issue of bullying. It later evolved into a month-long observation in the 2010s. Unity Day is an event of National Bullying Prevention Month, which occurs on the third and fourth Wednesdays in October. Unity Day this year was celebrated on October 18th, and people can participate in Unity Day by wearing orange to unite and show their support for anti-bullying. Trace Rios Pumas emphasized the message that bullying is not acceptable and that all students deserve to be safe in school, online, and in the community. The Quinton Sharks and the Online Academy Dust Devils discussed what it looks like to stand up against bullying. Lake and Lions stomped out bullying, turning skin blue. They held a special Blue Out Day to say no to bullies. Teachers also taught lessons on how to manage emotions and treat everyone with kindness. At Estrella Vista, classes worked on various social skills and support us in being and accepting of others. At Fine Arts, the Falcons were reminded if they see something, they should say something. Country Place, the anti-bullying message was connected with Habit 5, seek first to understand and then to be understood. And at Collier, teachers and students created bulletin boards on bullying prevention that were displayed throughout the halls. Students wrote what they can do to make school a safer place, and social worker had classroom presentations and discussions around bullying, respect, and boundaries. Last month was also Hispanic Heritage Month, and so we highlighted it in our schools as an opportunity to recognize and appreciate contributions of Hispanic Americans to our nation's history and culture. Special activities encourage students to learn about modern and historical Hispanic leaders, their impact, and their various traditions. The activities promote a wider perspective of the world in which in turn translates into a wider outlook and critical thinking for all of us. Collier and Littleton STEM Academy had a school-wide parade with students wearing traditional cultural clothing and prop displays. Fine Arts, one of their international teachers, and their art teacher worked together to develop a Dia de los Muertos learning celebration. Fine Arts Ballet Folklorico group performed at the Phoenix Folklorico Festival. At Laken, Los Leones celebrated with school-wide field trio into ASU Gamage for the Mariachi Garibaldi performance. And at Tres Rios, the staff hosted a week-long Hispanic Heritage potluck to share. That sounds like a lot of calories. Students are busy with many other learning activities, but I wanted to highlight our gifted students. This group has been working with ASU Prep on gifted coursework and that were selected by each individual student. Some of them are studying nursing and photography, health, coding, just to name a few of the topics. The lessons keep our accelerated learners engaged while learning new skills. Then at Country Place, students are becoming leaders in citizenship. Over the fall break, a portion of our library was transformed into a courtroom, and students have the opportunity to participate in mock trials, congressional hearings, and other projects to help build real-world understanding of how our government works, and they're really excited to offer this valuable learning opportunity. I talked to the principal, and they're going to have judges and all kinds of guests come in to work with the kids and give them real-life feedback from people who've really worked in those leadership positions. To end the report, I'd like to congratulate Littleton STEM campus and Principal Atahini as they were selected recipients of an Arizona School Boards Association Golden Bell. Staff and students showed off their Walk to Read program that targets kindergartners through 5th grade in their phonics skills. The program starts with phonics but builds to fluency, reading comprehension, and closes out with application of skills to develop their coding abilities. And keep up the amazing work, Firebirds. Lastly, I want to thank Albertson Safeway for their donation of $1,500 in school supplies to Fine Arts and the Quinton PTA for their donation of over $700 for field trips this month. And that's all I have this evening, Madam President.
Thank you. At this time, we'll ask for a reading of proclamations. We'll start with American Education Week, and Amy, I'll turn it over to you.
Whereas public schools are the backbone of our democracy, providing young people with the tools they need to maintain our nation's precious values of freedom, civility, and equality. And whereas a great education opens doors and changes lives. And whereas by equipping young Americans with both practical skills and broader intellectual abilities, schools give them hope for and access to a productive future. And whereas education employees work tirelessly to serve our children and communities with care and professionalism, and whereas schools are community cornerstones, bringing together the voices of adults and children, educators and volunteers, business leaders and elected officials in a common enterprise. Now, therefore, the Governing Board of Littleton Elementary School District 65 hereby proclaimed November 13th to 17th, 2023 as the 102nd annual observance of American Education Week.
Thank you. Next proclamation, we'll turn it over to Rachel, the Family Engagement Month.
Thank you. Whereas our vision is that families, schools, and communities are engaged in every child's education to enhance student achievement. Whereas the Littleton School District partners with families and schools to improve college and career readiness skills. Whereas Littleton School District's educators collaborate with families to form a strong educational framework for all children from preschool through high school. Whereas research indicates that schools that establish and maintain effective two-way communication with families increase participation in the learning process. Families who engage in their children at home, learning activities, and monitor homework help students achieve academic expectations. Students that include families in the decision-making process develop shared goals and actions to improve school and student education. Families who understand developmental milestones and academic expectations are confident and guide their children towards scholastic and social success. And communities that collaborate to strengthen family engagement initiatives impact positive student outcomes. Now, therefore, the Governing Board of Littleton Elementary School District Number 65 do hereby proclaim November 2023 as Family Engagement Month. We commend families, school staff, and community members who encourage student achievement and form meaningful partnerships on behalf of our children's futures.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll turn it over to Ms. Garrison to have a program showcase.
Thank you, Madam President, Governing Board. Tonight, I welcome Regan Headings to the podium for the first showcase. She is the principal of Collier Business Academy, and in typical Miss Headings fashion, she is excited to tell us about how they engage students using skills that not only help them make and manage money, but to think like an entrepreneur. She is ready to get down to business and have this all make sense. Her team has put together a moment of Hope video, which she will introduce before her dedicated volunteer and her Kid at Hope Student of the Month. Ms. Headings, welcome.
Good evening, President Reyes, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Freeman, executive team, and members of the Littleton community. I would like to thank you for providing us with the opportunity to showcase Collier's signature school program. At Collier, we empower, all for future success by providing financial and economic knowledge, exposure, resources for students, staff, parents, and community. We prepare students for the real world by enhancing their workforce marketability, teaching them to collaborate and problem solve, as well as empower them with financial literacy to support a prosperous future. At this time, I would like to present our signature video created by our Collier student ambassadors. Our Collier ambassadors created a plan, developed scripts, and gave Dan Butzman some direction here and there in order to develop this video. They are currently working on small videos, ideas such as uniforms, parking lot procedures, and other areas they determined needed a little more PR. They are Collier's experts and ambassadors for all things business and finance.
Welcome to Collier Business Academy! Let's go in!
Our school focuses on business, and our business essentials are integrity and ethical responsibility, time management and planning, a global perspective, leadership and teamwork,
emotional intelligence and empathy,
Determination with flexibility and resilience,
analytical and critical thinking,
self-motivation, self-direction, and adaptability,
complex communication, oral and written, digital and quantitative literacy.
Let's go to our business hub.
Our vision is preparing students for the real world and showing them how to generate wealth and effectively manage it, how to create jobs which makes their communities more robust, and how to apply entrepreneurial thinking to the workplace.
These lifelong skills help students make informed, intelligent decisions about their future and foster financial literacy that will be highly useful in the business world.
Our mission is we empower all for future success.
One way we will do this is by creating school-business relationships in order to combine forces and share expertise that will benefit students, teachers, and the entire Collier community. We have also transformed our 2 computer labs into this 21st century business and financial literacy learning lab.
This will provide students with opportunities to interact with hands-on learning experiences and real-life applications to better solidify the learning with the JA BizTalk curriculum. Collier's focus is K through 8, so students start from a young age learning about money, debt, and credit, and how these life skills will be interwoven throughout the years.
The goal is for all students to understand money and its impact in our students' future lives. It will also allow opportunities for business development of ideas,
creative thinking, cross-curricular integration, real-life application, opportunity, refined communication skills, creative critical thinking, and meaningful application of grade-level standards.
Let's go to our business classroom.
In the business classroom, we focus on the 3 big principles, which we learn through Ramsey education and classroom economy.
These include earn, spend, save, and invest.
In our daily classrooms, we learn about business through junior achievement, and we take fun field trips to JA BizTown and Finance Park.
We involve our families with Family Finance Night, sponsored by Monica Martinez with ACEE, when we enjoy fun learning activities, raffles, and pizza.
Arizona Council on Economic Education is thrilled to partner with Collier Business Academy. Over the next year, we will be focused on professional development for teachers, where we can integrate concepts like finance and economics into early childhood literacy, math, and STEAM topics. We're gonna focus with our students so they understand the world of investing through programs like the stock market game, and involve your community, where we hosted Financial Literacy Family Nights just last September, inviting over 300 families to attend and take part in a safe environment to talk about finances. Thank you, and I look forward to your commitment to financial literacy and economic education.
We are also implementing a brain-based learning by using an ATM app where students can earn and spend money in school store.
Finally, we want to thank our partners for making all of this possible.
Grand Canyon University,
Arizona Council on Economic Education,
Westmed, Junior Achievement, One-to-One Finance, and BOK Financial.
Bye! They only took one of my directions, and that was to put ACEE in there. Other than that, all ideas were rejected. Collier teachers are currently receiving professional development in collaboration with GCU focused on project-based learning, specifically targeting business and financial literacy topics and aligned content standards. GCU is supporting staff in developing and renewing a common language surrounding effective PBL practices, strategies, and implementing the 4 C's of project-based learning. The 4 C's consist of critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. Leaders, teachers, and support staff will have a shared understanding of project-based learning, PBL, and how to incorporate these strategies and the strategies necessary for a successful PBL into daily instruction across all content. Most importantly, creating a framework that promotes unique projects and thinking for each individual. Collier's shifting our mindset from doing a project, the dessert, to project-based learning, the main course. Visit a traditional classroom and you'll probably find the students have done dessert projects in at least one unit or during the school year. From shoebox dioramas to hand-built models to poster presentations, students are often tasked with creating something related to a topic in the unit. With PBL, the project is the main course. It provides a framework for student learning in the unit or year-long content. By making a main course out of project-based learning, students become deeply engaged in their work. They understand how what they learn in school applies to the real world. They develop the skills that will set them up for success in college, career, and life. An example of a current project is in 4th grade. They're working on answering the question, what does the world need? The students then use this driving question to create, plan, fund, and share a product or sell a product or an idea. Integrating business and finance literacy across all content areas is a huge focus at Collier. One way we are doing this is through art integration. All students at Collier entered ACEE's, Arizona Council for Economic Education, concept poster contest in October. Topics around business and finance varied from student to student. We had 2 posters that won. Sanaya, a 6th grader, and Sierra B, an 8th grader. Our students' artwork will be featured in the 2024-25 calendar for ACEE for both August and February. Collier had the largest number of poster entries, and our 6th grade winner, Sanaya, received a $500 prize, winning it all. Collier partners with members of our community to provide professional development for our families. We just had our business and financial literacy kickoff sponsored by ACEE, BOK Financial, and United Health on September 19th, with approximately 350 participants. So Monica had said that we invited 300. No, everybody was invited. We had 350 that showed up. Families learn about business and finance through games, pizza, and fun. Parents also had an adult session which focused on the importance of monthly budget. We will end our year with an expo which will highlight our PBL projects school-wide and engage families in more learning around business and financial literacy. We would love for everybody to come. In closing, I just want to share a moment I had with a parent recently. This parent put into a nutshell what our signature is about. She said they had eaten out 4 times that week at Taco Bell, a regular week at my house. And her student looked at her at the 4th time and said, "Mom, I don't think this is in our budget." Teaching our students about fiscal responsibilities, budgeting, and business is a key to a brighter future and might just be what impacts our families for future generations. An investment in our students pays the best interest. I'm going to take questions, but I promised you from last time these cards. I will tell you, you can't use them. There's a QR code. We have to negotiate your salaries first, and we're gonna have to get paid in on that one. But or Mr. French, but I did bring the ETM cards to share with you today. So at this time, I would like to take any questions.
Any questions from the board?
I don't have a question. I just want to say I'm in awe of this, and my children have benefited specifically from the financial literacy that is offered at Collier. So I'm just amazed at how every year you kind of raise the bar.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Rachel said. This is something that I wish I had. I know we brought the arts in when I was a student, and now we brought the financial literacy in, and I got it my senior year of high school. So it's really great to see this launched.
And also I'll mimic the same thing, but I also want to shout out to the students out there and let them know that we look forward to their continued success and obviously becoming millionaires or billionaires perhaps. Congratulations, that's a lot. I also wish I would have had it, so congratulations.
Thank you. As we transition into honoring our kids at Hope and celebrating our Volunteer of the Year, I would like to leave you with a message from our kindergarten students at Collier. Through our signature of business and financial literacy, there's no limit to their destinations. We actually have the teacher here that created a video we're going to show you right now, our fabulous kindergarten teacher.
This is our school. No person has the right to interfere with the learning, dictate, or well-being of others. At Collier, we empower all for future success. This is our Kids at Home pledge. I am a kid at Hope. I am talented and capable of success. I have dreams for your future, and I'll climb the wings of golden dreams. Every day, no exceptions. This is our school week. My professor
Now you will introduce your volunteer. Oh, no. Yes, the video.
Collier Business Academy for Financial Literacy is pleased to announce Anna Quintana as November's Volunteer of the Month. Anna Quintana is an amazing parent at Collier Business Academy for Financial Literacy. She helps all around the Collier campus. Anna volunteered to separate all social studies weekly papers, which is a hefty task, and rip out all our math lessons and organize them for all of our students. This was a huge help to our kindergarten teachers and our students. She has also donated many classroom items to help our students with learning across the campus. Anna supports the teachers of her own children and others by constantly bringing in and donating supplies that are much needed in the classroom. And she is always available when called on for help as needed. Anna is deserving of the Volunteer of the Month award for her time and dedication that she puts in to make Collier the best it can be. Thank you, Anna, for all you do at Collier for our students and staff. We appreciate you. Collier Business
Next up, let's hear about the Coyote Kid at Hope.
Hello, I'm Celestina Corubias. Being a Kid of Hope is a huge responsibility. But what does it mean to be a Kid of Hope? For me, it's important that I put 100% effort into all aspects of my education. For instance, I'm always trying new things to constantly challenge myself, such as participating in class discussions, and when given a choice, I always choose the most challenging assignments. Being a Kid of Hope means more than just being a good student. For example, I treat everyone with kindness and respect, whether I'm at Collier or away from school. These past 5 years being a Coyote has forever impacted my life and future, and I'm proud to have been selected to represent the students at Collier Business Academy as their Kid at Hope representative.
The student was not able to join us tonight, but let's give him one final round of applause for an awesome video. Thank you. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Kellen Thornton, who will bring us up to speed about the first season of athletics. He's going to introduce the athletes of the season so we can congratulate Jesleen Corona and Aaron Bowling Jr., and then he will recognize the girls' basketball team from Littleton STEM Academy and the co-ed flag football team from the Quinton STEM Academy. Mr. Kellen. Mr. Thornton.
Hi, I'm Kellen Thornton, the athletic coordinator for the district and the PE teacher over at Lake and Prep Academy. This season was boys flag football and girls basketball. Outstanding season from everybody who participated. Outside of that, we have 2 students that we wanted to recognize who showed great sportsmanship and determination throughout the season. First is Aaron Bowling. His coaches said Aaron came to Country Place last spring, so this is his first time playing in the district. He carries himself with a presence that is beyond his 12 years. He's always even-keeled, locked into the game, and always encouraging his teammates to be as well. Aaron's mindset is we are always in the game. He starts the game at 110%, and he finished the game the same way. He has had an interception in each of our games and made key multiple receptions. He never shows any anger, fear, or lack of hope. As a result of this, his teammates gravitate toward him and mimic his mannerisms. Aaron leads by example and embodies the concept of think win-win. As such, we proudly recommend him as the impact player, Aaron Boyle.
Is he here?
No. Okay. All right. And for girls basketball, we have Jesleen Corona. Her coach writes, Jazz is a team captain and always does her part to make sure the team is being productive and striving for success. She holds others accountable and is always ready to take feedback and make necessary changes. She motivates others and never gives up. She is extremely respectful and always shows good sportsmanship. So, player of the year for girls basketball is Jesleen Corona. All right. Also, as far as champions for this season, for girls basketball, the Littleton STEM Academy won this year for girls basketball. The team is here. You guys see the team coaches, coached by Alyssa Martinez. Sorry. Well, over. Also, I would like to recognize for the flag football champion. These guys went undefeated this season, all the way through the regular season and through the playoffs. So good job to the Quentin Sharks, who are coached by Adam Ortiz and Daryl Covert. Right. Congratulations, fellas. You got a picture over there?
So thank you. We did recognize the 8-0 on the back of your shirt, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have the championship winners for the quarter, or was that them? Okay. Well, now is a good time. You're always welcome to stay here, but if you need to leave to get dinner, do homework, this is a good time to exit, or again, you're always welcome to stay, but we understand it gets late. Dr. Friedman said, don't spend your money at Taco Bell.
I didn't say
Yeah, you did. I heard you.
Unless it's in your budget.
Unless it's in your budget. Thank you, Amy.
Have you noticed how much their prices went up? I used to get a taco for like 59 cents.
Not anymore. Finance. Can you afford it?
You can negotiate your salary better.
And like, there's no negotiating at Taco Bell.
All right, so at this time, we do have a call to the public. Maria Lopez, if you'll approach the podium, please. And in order to allow time for everyone to participate, comments are limited to 3 minutes. No disparagement, name-calling, or personal attacks upon board members, staff, or personnel, or other persons in attendance or absence will be permitted by individuals who address the board. In addition, questions or comments on matters that are currently under legal review will not be accepted. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Maria Lopez. I attended Littleton Elementary 1st grade through 5th grade and attended Underdown Junior High School grades 6th through 8th. I graduated in 1976. I happen to be the administrator of a page on Facebook called I Survived Underdown Junior High School in Cashin. I did not give it that name. That was set by the previous administrator, who sadly passed away, and so then I picked up the reins. Now there are 765 members former alumni of Underdown, and every week we keep growing. We have in common our love and respect for our former school, Underdown Junior High, and for those who were our teachers and principals and classmates. Every day there is a new memory that is shared. Like I like to tell the members, our school may be gone, but 5 decades of alumni are still here. This year, 2023, will mark what would have been the 60th anniversary of Underdown. We are holding anniversary celebrations. We held one already, and although the number of alumni was small, the memories we shared were great. The next reunion will be held at Eva's Bistro, the namesake of Mrs. Martin, our longtime food director. I would like to make an invitation to you to join us on Tuesday, November 28th at Eva's Bistro. We hope to have a few more events because the group members really want to have these get-togethers. It's a little difficult because we're just a group of people who gather together, so we don't have any funds. But we're meeting at local restaurants and we pay for our own food out of pocket. So again, an invitation to you to let you know that Wildcat Pride is still strong, and I wore blue and gold for my school. Wildcats forever. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My sons attended Underdown, and I do have stories as well. They caught the lab on fire, so it was an interesting story, but congratulations, that's awesome. All right, so now we're moving on to the consent agenda. Is there any items that the board wishes to have pulled from the consent agenda? I hear no items pulled from the consent agenda, so with that, I will need this is an action item, and I will need a motion.
I move the governing board approve the items submitted for consent.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion will pass. Thank you. We're moving on to item 10, financial options, and this goes to Mr. French.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the governing board. At this point, I would like to invite Robert Young up to the podium. Mr. Young's company, One-to-One Wealth Strategies, is one of the companies that the district uses to provide our staff members with our financial literacy options. We would like to provide this presentation or discussion to the board this evening to talk about what those options are that we do currently provide to our staff and what we can potentially provide in the future. Mr. Young.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Freeman, Governing Board President, and members of the Governing Board. I'm hoping I'm going to use this correctly and not mess it up completely here. So I want to thank Dr. Freeman for inviting me in. He and I have had a number of discussions about this issue. I think we're all very aware of the situation in Arizona with funding, particularly for education, for teachers, that sort of thing. It's been a concern. My company works with I think we're in about 55 different districts around the state of Arizona, so we see this in all different districts. I happen to live up in Cave Creek District. We have the same funding issues for a lot of time for a lot of our teachers and employees that you do here and everywhere else around the state. So a lot of the conversations that Dr. Freeman and I have had have been centered around how can we help with improved recruiting, development, and retention of your employees. It's a big deal. And really what it came down to, and what Dr. Freeman's big points, or I think that he wanted to make, is that even if we could give a lot of the employees increases in pay, it's knowing what to do with that money once they have it. So I think what I'm going to do tonight is kind of go over a little bit of an idea of how we're thinking about going about this, and I'll let obviously Dr. Freeman can comment at any point that he would like to here. Interesting story. We have all of you familiar with what a CRM is? Okay, it's a client retention management system. We have them. So for years we had one, and honestly we didn't use it enough because we weren't trained that well on it, didn't understand it that well, and at one point in time my partners and I considered getting rid of it. Well, we had one of our advisors, a new advisor that came in, that happened to know this system very well. Went through it with us, showed us all these amazing things that it would do. We ended up not only keeping that system, but expanding that system, getting everybody to start utilizing that system, and that system has made our firm, helped us grow. It's helped us become a better firm, be able to service people better. What I'm getting to is that I think that a lot like our CRM, a lot of your employees don't realize how their benefits work. I jokingly say that I probably know how to use 10% of my phone, so I have a 13-year-old in the house, so I can ask her any of the questions on how to use the rest of it. But the problem is they don't understand all the benefits that they have, and there's a lot of things that they could be utilizing that you guys, by the way, provide to them at no cost, and they're not utilizing them. I think that's important. So I'm gonna go over those a little bit. We always have to have the disclosures. That's the world that I live in. So, you know, I remember I was meeting with a 26-year-old couple. They were both 26 years old. They originally moved here from Nebraska, 2 teachers, not in your district, but a neighboring district. And they asked for a meeting. I met with them, and we were going over some things. And we were just talking about some really very elementary fundamentals about saving and investing. And it's interesting that I'm following the investment club. I thought that was awesome. I was sitting in the back looking up Collier Business School, and that was phenomenal. I love to hear financial literacy. Starting at a young age is good. But the reality is that a lot of your employees don't have a lot of background with financial literacy. And I think what's happening is a lot of employees leave their jobs. This isn't unique to Littleton or even unique to education. They leave their job for a couple of things. One is they don't feel supported, and 2 is financially. They just can't afford. I can't tell you the number of people in education that we've heard say, we're going to be leaving. I would love to stay. I can't afford to. And what's sad is many times they're going across the street to take a job that if they really looked at their whole benefits package and what it means and understood, like our CRM, how to use it, they would have probably stayed. So our motivation here is to talk about many of the things that you guys have. You know, we talk about things like medical expenses, there's unexpected events, there's saving for college. These are all the kind of things that you save for. It's not just retirement. In fact, I would tell you that the average 22, 23, 24-year-old that gets out of college and goes into education, they're not thinking about what's going to happen 30 years down the road. They're really focused on what's going to happen 30 days down the road. Where we're going to get a place to rent. You know, we have a couple new employees that we hired out of college, out of ASU's business school, out of U of A, and I was shocked at what they're paying for a 1-bedroom apartment. So the cost of housing has gone up dramatically. You know, for all the good things there are, you know, yep, maybe somebody sold their house and got a lot more for it than they bought it for 10 years ago, but that's increased the price of rents and a lot of other things as well. You know, there was just some really simple things that they asked me. One of the questions was, and this is a little chart that we kind of shows, you know, should we be putting money away pre-tax? Should we be putting our money away after tax? I don't know how many of you are familiar with Roth IRAs. Well, there's also such thing as a Roth 403B, a Roth 401k. That just provides the ability to be able to save your money after tax. It grows. It's a great tool. It grows tax-free until you get to 59 and a half or whatever retirement age, and you can pull it out. And all the growth in it is tax-free. They didn't have any idea what the difference between those were. Now, this is 26-year-olds. They both had degrees. In fact, one was working on finishing their master's degree. It's because finance is a mile wide. Like if I talked to Mr. French here about his part of finance, and we talked about my part of finance, it's a totally unrelated area, believe it or not, even though they both say finance in them. So what I want to try to do is this. You know, I think that it is really important for all of your employees, and we're not just talking about teachers, to understand the most basic things that they have. Number one is a defined benefit plan. Most people don't know what that is. It's more popularly known as a pension. So pension plans are almost non-existent in the private sector, but yet if you work for a state-sponsored government, school district, city, that sort of thing, you get one. And these are great. This is the calculation on how to work their Arizona State retirement. I just met somebody who's a longtime teacher, now an administrator, 26 years in the district, works in a district in the East Valley. And she said, how do I get on the website to look at my pension? She's been for 26 years. She's never been on the website. You know why she's looking now, right? Because she's getting close to retirement. I can always tell. Okay? So there's your formula. That's what happens. The more years you get, the higher the percentages, the more you're going to get. But here's what it equates to. Let's say you have somebody that's making $60,000. Now, this is somebody with 30 years of service. They've been teaching a long time, and this is just an average of what they're making. So it's a teacher. They're going to get 69% of that for the rest of their life. That's $41,400 a year. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot, maybe, if they were making 60. But let's talk about what this really means. Okay, I realize that they're going to have to pay a few things. They're going to have to pay their own health insurance. They're going to have to pay, joint survivor means if you have a pension and you have a spouse, we want to make sure that this passes on to the spouse if in the event of the participant or what we call the member's death. Okay, so they've got to pay taxes, but they were paying taxes out of their salary as well. Okay, how does all that work? Well, here's kind of what it looks like. $60,000 a year, they get $41,000 a year. Here's a real big advantage that they don't, and what I'm trying to talk about is things that they don't really understand when they come to work here. They think to themselves, well, my friend in the private sector is making, you know, X number of thousands more than I am. Well, do they have a pension? No, they have a 401k. Well, we'll talk about that in a moment. Another thing here is that in the state of Arizona, there's no reduction in your Social Security if you have pension. 15 states in the US, in fact, almost all of the police and fire that work in this state that are in the pension system, they get a dramatically reduced, or what's called a windfall elimination provision in their Social Security. It means they get very little, if any, Social Security because they have a pension. None of the employees in this district get that. They're all going to get their full Social Security, and they're also going to receive their pension. And when you add those together in the lower cost of living here than in other states like California or Washington or in other states on the East Coast, not a bad thing. Something to talk about, something for them to think about. This right here is an example of, you know, when you add together their pension and their Social Security, and if they hopefully save a little bit, pay their debt down, they can have a very nice retirement. The average teacher in Arizona, ASRS, Arizona State Retirement System employee, member in the state of Arizona retires between 52 and 58 years old. Okay, that's not bad. Now, they may go back to work, continue doing something else, but they have the ability to at least bring in a pension, and they can apply for their Social Security when they're 70s. Something that a lot of people don't look at is this. You take an average person who's, let's say, can take their pension at age 55. And if you look at the actuarial tables, how long Americans are living, it's easy to look at it and say, well, a 55-year-old could be around for 30 years and lives until they're 85 years old. If that person was earning the numbers I showed you earlier, that $60,000 a year employee earning $41,000 a year, over that 30-year period, that's $1.2 million in pension benefits they would have accumulated. See, it's important that we take the numbers and explain to them, if you'll spend some time in this district, staying with us, help educating our amazing kids and learning about your finances, how's that? $1.2 million. Oh, that's for not working. That's for not working. That's when they're done. Now, if they want to work on top of that, that's their prerogative, but not bad, right? When they look at their peers that are in the private sector, when they stop working, zero. They're not going to get anything from that point on. It's a big difference. The other thing is, I mentioned earlier, I talked about the fact that, you know, you have a 401k, you have all these other advantages. What we really want to do with, well, this is Dr. Freeman's idea, was to explain to them all the things that we're doing. You know, the employee's having to put over 12% into ASRS, but who's matching that? I'm sure you all know. The district is. You're putting in 12.3%, 7.65% into their Social Security and their Medicare. Two things, ASRS, all the money that the employee ever puts into ASRS, they're going to get back in about the first 4.5 to 5.5 years. After that, they're living on the general fund. So they're going to get back a lot more out of it than they ever put into it. Social Security is not too far behind that. You'll get back a lot more out of Social Security than you ever put into it. Okay? If the employee retires before they reach age 65, what do they get to do? They can go on to ASRS, has a very good retirement plan. People say that's very expensive. Try being self-employed. I would take that plan any day of the week. It's a fraction of what I pay for my health insurance, because we're not a giant, we have 18 people. We're not a giant company with thousands or hundreds of employees. So they have health insurance till they go into Medicare. HSA plan, this is one of the coolest plans that's around, and no people are not taking advantage of it, and that is that you can put money into a health savings account, pre-tax, you don't pay any taxes on it, and if you use it correctly for qualified medical expenses, you can pull it out completely tax-free. That's free of Medicare, Social Security, federal, state taxes, all that stuff. But you know what? The vast majority of employees don't know it exists, and they don't understand how it works. Long-term disability, that's built into the Arizona State retirement. So after 6 months, if they're disabled, I have a client, I have multiple clients that have done this. They're on disability. I said, file for your state long-term disability. Not only after 6 months do they get their disability, which is about what they were taking home. They get to keep accumulating years of service until they get to a certain multiplier or number. They did not know that. These are important things that they need to know. In the private sector, you get disabled, unless you bought disability insurance, your paycheck is zero. This is a big deal. Maybe this will keep somebody from walking across the street and taking a job somewhere else. And the last thing in here too, and I can't get this slide to advance for some reason. Okay. There we go. Savers credit. So for lower income, I don't know if you guys know this, but for lower income employees, if they put money into their 403B plan, they can get up to 50% of what they put in there and a maximum of $1,000. Example, an employee puts $2,000 a year into their 403B plan. They can get $1,000 of that back in a tax credit at the end of the year. That is not a deduction. If they were going to get a $2,000 return, they'll get a $3,000 return. Now that's
U.S. or AZ?
that is a federal return that they get. That's a federal program. So pretty nice. This is a lot of things that we should be talking to them about. And the idea is trying to put something around this, and this will really help. You start this when you recruit them, and you continue this as you develop them, and hopefully you can retain them. And you know, as far as 401ks go, you guys have 403B plans, you have 457 plans. You know that if you have an employee that is age 50, or I'm sorry, under age 50, they can put away almost $45,000, actually $45,000 a year into their retirement plans. And if they're over age 50, they can put over $60,000 a year in their retirement plans. Now I realize that's a lot of money, I get that. My point is, rather than just having one plan like a 401k, you have two. On top of that, you have your pension. But they need to understand these different things. They need to understand how they're used. When's it time to use a bank account? When's it time to use a money market? How does a Roth account work? What do bonds do? Just a basics of understanding how to use their money. Because as I told Dr. Freeman, most of what we see is self-inflicted pain. That's just what we see. People come to us and they say, well, you know, this is what happened. I was saving up for a car and I put the money away and I like this and I put it into a savings account, and they didn't account for the fact that inflation's eating into that return. If you remember from high school economics, there's what you call your total return, and then you deduct interest, you deduct inflation in taxes, and you get what's called your real return. So as great as it seems we're getting 4% in our high yield savings these days, after you back out the 4% inflation and taxes, we're not breaking even. So they need to understand there's a place for savings, but there's also a place for investing. There's a place for using your HSA. There's a place for pre-tax, Roth savings, all those things. HRA, I think Dr. Freeman, I'm going to let him go into that a little bit further, but there's two different plans out there. That's a great plan, by the way, the HRA. It's a post-retirement health reimbursement account that they can use. And here's what happened. I was talking to a district. Employees that the last year of their employment had, I don't know, 20, 30, 50, 100 days saved up. Guess what they did that last year? Because they were going to use them or lose them. They used them. Guess how much that costs the district? You got to pay the employee for not being there, and you have to hire a substitute. So the idea is to put a plan in place to say, you know what, if you hold on to those, we'll show a way to use that money tax-free, completely tax-free for qualified medical expenses that you're going to spend anyhow. You can even reimburse yourself for ASRS and Medicare expenses. Outstanding program. But the biggest thing is teach them how to save early. And it doesn't matter if they're 25 or they're 55 or they're 65. Have a plan to develop the employees. What I always like to say is this, is my most important clients, my firm has almost 3,000 clients, but my most important clients are our employees, because they're the ones that actually take care of our clients on a day-to-day basis, just like your employees take care of the kids and all of the parents and everybody else in this district. So the more that we can do to help them become financially independent, and it doesn't mean millionaires or billionaires, it just means have enough money to enjoy themselves, not be stressed over money, and show them all of these amazing benefits that you have that you're providing to them as a district. One thing that's not being provided is probably the education and showing them how to use the tools, a lot like my CRM that we had that we almost got rid of. We didn't realize what a valuable tool it is. I think that's what's happening. They don't realize what a valuable tool this is. And what's happening is your competition down the road that's going to hire these people, they're never going to show them how this stuff works. So be the one that shows them how this works. And I think this is a great way to retain them. That's all I have. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I learned a lot.
Do you have any questions? I didn't hear how to save and not pay taxes, but I know that's a different conversation.
We have to do that offline when the IRS
Oh,
isn't listening.
yeah, I know. It's not on record, so we're good.
Have a good evening. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Robert. One of the things that we talked about is people at different stages of their career, early in teaching, mid-career, and late career, probably have different financial pressures and different financial goals. So as we're looking across those years, let's just say 30 years, early on, we feel like we need to do more compensation education. And even if you're just saving $10 a paycheck, what an impact that could have. And then later on, the only thing we felt that we didn't have a plan in place for was the HRA. So we do, for everybody who takes a high deductible health plan, we start them in an HSA. And so we're helping them learn about that. But what we're seeing is a trend right now with employment, especially in the area of special ed, where we're purchasing services from outside companies, and people will leave a speech job or a special ed job here because they think the private company is giving them more money because their take-home pay is a little higher. But later on, they find out they made a bad deal. And what we want to do is be able to show that to them before they make that decision to stay invested and stay with us as we can, because we're seeing, because the pressure on housing is so great, which Robert brought up, is people are just looking at, you know, what they're taking home right now, and it's hard to compete with that pressure. You know, these meetings are recorded, so what we're thinking is from some snippets of some of the program tonight, we may be able to put something together for teachers for orientation.
That's a good idea. Definitely ASRS is its own beast if you're not familiar with it. So, and there's no question, it doesn't, private organizations, even though they may have 401ks, doesn't hold a candle to the Arizona State retirement system. And you realize that as you continue to get younger. So that's interesting. But thank you very much. We appreciate it. All right. So with that, we're going to move to the monitoring report. Dr. Freeman?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. The details of this item really just review the guiding principles and goals, but we wanted to be able to show you the draft of the summary. We used the same template as prior year because we had good feedback on that from the board. So what's happened really is we've gone in and substituted the last year of information that we reviewed with you at the last meeting. And it is, again, it's the long format, so it can be put together in poster style like this. We also have the window that can be removed for a mailer so that it can be folded. And I think, does it get folded 4 ways or something like that? And it can be distributed to community members. So if you are looking on your computer, you'd be able to zoom in. I don't think... well, that's bigger. If you scrolled slowly for the people who are watching online, they'd be able to see a little bit of the content, and board members can see that on their computer. So we asked staff to take your comments and things that they thought were highlights for the year and be sure to highlight those in the summary from all the information that was in your monitoring report at the last meeting. I think they did a pretty good job for working on a fairly short timeline. In the end, I asked them to block out a little time in their calendar next year so there's less panic. If you see anything in there, I don't know that anybody had time to look through those or when the attachment got posted. But if you see anything in there that's a concern, we haven't bulk printed them yet. We've just put the model up for you guys to review. You can let Ada or I know, and we'll make whatever corrections or adjustments need to be made. But I think it came out pretty good. I appreciate the hard work of the staff to put that together in a quick turnaround.
Thank you. We'll look over it, and as necessary, we'll give feedback to Ida as we see it. So thank you, everyone, for putting it together. I know things like that are very difficult to condense down to something that's manageable and readable. With that, we'll move on to item 12. Mr. French, this is an action item to talk about position reclassification.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the Governing Board, Littleton community. This evening, we are requesting the board consider a position reclassification for our buyer that works out of the business office into a purchasing and asset supervisor. What happened was we've had some different districts in the surrounding community has had some opening of positions. It got us to look at that position that we have currently. And our buyer is doing a lot of the things that their administrator, directors, supervisors are doing in these other districts. We want to make sure that we're keeping the staff that we've trained, and we'd like to retain this staff member. We have attached a sample job description, as well as the current org chart, as well as a proposed org chart for the board to look at. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have, but we are asking the board to reclassify the position to a purchasing and asset supervisor.
Questions, comments? Yes.
Have we got feedback from the person who currently holds this title, if they're okay with their title changing?
Member Cisneros, so I have discussed the potential of this happening. We didn't want them to be surprised by the board taking action and them not having any feedback or ability to comment on this. They are excited about the possibility of the board reclassifying the position for them, are excited about potentially being in a supervisory role, and has a lot of great ideas on how they can help support the fixed asset side of the school district as well.
I have one question. As far as a salary or range, what does it jump to?
Madam President, I would ask Dr. Hay to answer that. It does go onto the administrative salary schedule, I believe, but I'm not sure the range.
Madam President, members of the board, without pulling the range up, the supervisor is the lowest level of supervisor in the administrative ranks. And so it's an introductory position into the administrative position. The buyer currently, from my recollection, is about midway in the placement schedule, and we just went through a major rehaul of that in the past year. And so with that, I did not do the math before coming in here, but we can.
I'm just curious if it's 5%, 7%, 10% jump. Any idea?
We can put that together, but I don't have that off the top of my head right now. It is a significant increase in responsibilities. We don't have the job description up, but one of the things that's been floating around and been different people's responsibility is the fixed asset portion of this particular job. And so the supervision of the warehouse and fixed assets, I don't know why I can't say that tonight, is a total change, because that has typically been under the director of operations, shared with Mr. French in his role, and usually auditors come in and we have different people. So with things becoming more expensive and us having to track more fixed assets, this would be a real benefit for us. As far as the salary goes, I would have to calculate that and bring that back to you.
Was this an internal posting or?
There's nothing posted yet. It doesn't exist until you approve it.
Then it will be an internal posting only, or will it be?
We will run this internally only.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam President, I would just add that the board has given me latitude to make small increments in salary adjustment to compete against people coming in, but we've interpreted that to be 2% or less, and so the increase will be more than 2%.
That's why I was trying to understand.
Or we could have handled it internally mid-year, and normally we don't bring these to you in the middle of the year.
I knew it had to be much more significant.
Yeah,
That's
so
what I was trying to
we're
understand.
not adding FTEs, so there's no additional people, but we are changing the responsibilities to go along with increased compensation to help retain the employee. But then, as usual, any other changes to org chart, salaries, and those things will come back to you in the spring. So we're trying to be essentially what we would tell the employee. We're doing as much as we can, but being conservative because it's the middle of the year.
No, the only reason I ask is you can understand where this goes, right? So if it's a 20% jump, people are looking, or
It's not a 20% jump.
whatever it is.
I'll report it in the update this week.
Perfect. You just want to be fair and consistent in whatever you do to everyone.
Mr. French, are you able to say the person who's currently in this position, how long have they been with the district?
Member Barnett, she has been with the district prior to my arrival. I do know that she has been with the district for a long time. She has kids in the district, is very loyal to the district, has moved up in positions, so has shown that initiative and that work ethic that has been a very big benefit to Littleton. So she has been here longer than my 4-year tenure.
More than 5, less than 10.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? If not, this is an action item.
I move the governing board approve the reclassification position of the district buyer to purchase and an asset supervisor.
I'll second.
There is a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion will pass. Thank you. We'll move on to Dr. Freeman for discussion on the district proclamations.
Madam President, members of the board, we put the annual proclamation schedule back on the agenda for discussion tonight. Member Seniceros submitted another idea for a resolution, so just to clarify on that, we've changed everything that might have looked like a resolution to a proclamation because on advice of attorney, board's powers for resolution are limited to elections. That doesn't mean we can't do proclamations on whatever topic we want to. As the last time we went through this, we put together an annual schedule. The management team talks amongst ourselves, and I think, we did think of maybe there were one or other two things related to the district's mission that we would put in. But this item really is here tonight for him to have an opportunity to present a rationale for another topic that's not on our list. And again, we'd like to have the schedule of these things known and predictable. So the instead of the president and the superintendent kind of divining judgment on what should or shouldn't be included, we brought it back to the whole board for consideration.
So at this time, it looks like Member Cisneros has some comments. Some ideas.
Yes, well, I first want to start by thanks for the heads up for this item for being on the agenda. Just for clarification, before we go forward with the conversation, from my understanding, you're telling me that the board cannot put forward a resolution from reading the description?
What I said is on vice of council, we can call them proclamations, but the authority of the board for resolutions is limited to elections.
And do we have the policy on hand for the board? For each of us to have policies of that? Or the
Or is it a
legal
legal
statement?
opinion?
Or legal opinion from the attorney on hand?
Do we have?
He's asking is if we got this on the advice of legal counsel, do you have the opinion of the legal counsel?
That was the last time we brought the resolution on I can't remember what we called it. The populations that were, the minority populations that were, so that is a year old. It's not a written opinion. I don't even know that our attorney would do that. If you wanted to do that, you'd probably go to the county attorney. It has, I guess short answer is no, it's not a written opinion.
Okay.
The board could ask their attorney for a written opinion. if that's what the board wanted to do, I generally just ask them and they tell me.
Okay, because I just wanted to make sure, because from reading the description of the item on the agenda, that's kind of seem what the conversation was at. I mean, I understand. I did the liberty of getting copies of other school districts that have recently passed resolutions, so I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't a thing that that conversation was going to be here, and that we all had an understanding as a board that we have the power to pass resolutions. That is up to our description, and with certain policies in Section B that I also have on hand, that I'm more than happy to give copies out to all of us. But, I mean, there was no discussion with me as an individual board member prior to this item being on the agenda, so, I mean, it would have been nice to have a heads up so I could come to this meeting prepared with certain ideas and talking points that I could have with my colleagues on the board. So I would have liked that head up. I mean, I know the resolution I submitted to the superintendent and the president, I did have a conversation with President Reyes, but we had a meeting scheduled and it was canceled with Dr. Freeman. So I know we just recently rescheduled it. So I'm just kind of, this is a shocker to me.
I think this was put on there, I'm not sure of all the language and all that, but this was put on there as an opportunity, if I'm not mistaken, for you to high level, nothing detailed, nothing that would go on forever, but kind of a high level of what your thought process was and whatever resolution you're thinking of bringing. And correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Freeman.
To me, you know, I don't understand the importance of the difference between a resolution and a proclamation.
Yeah, I'm struggling with that right now myself.
One has, I don't think, any more bearing than the other in what you call it. I think the point would be you're going to act as a board to support something. So the
we can always table this.
I thought we had talked about last time we did this, because we changed the resolution to a proclamation based on that it had been discussed. You know, calling something a proclamation or a resolution doesn't seem like it should be a big issue. What probably should be a big issue is the topics that you want to include and the wording that is in them. Otherwise, I thought there was some discussion, and I understood the topic was the impact of global warming. Is that right?
So I would not want to go forward with the discussion of the resolution I submitted with my colleagues, because I have not been able to have that discussion yet with our superintendent, nor is the resolution on hand. So I think I just don't want to go forward. I mean, there is a list. If we want to talk about proclamations that we could add, recognizing a month or a week, from my understanding, that's what a proclamation is. A resolution is recognizing something, listing off action items, whether it's creating a subcommittee that we can include with certain policy that the board's going by. So I mean, there is proclamations for things that we could recognize, whether it's a month or a week or a holiday, when it comes to Juneteenth or when it comes to National Trans Week, such as this. So those are, if that's a discussion I'm willing to have right now. But I mean, when it comes to the resolution I submitted, I mean, we don't have it on hand, so that's why I'm kind of confused of what this.
So it sounds like, to be honest, we're all a little, I mean, I'm confused right now myself. So I think what we need to do is, one, table this until we can be clear and we can have, what we started to have is a conversation about what your goal is and what you wanted to do, because we have not had that through no fault of anyone. It was some things that happened. So we could table that and then meet with you and figure what that looks like. And if we need to, if I need to get legal opinions to determine resolution or proclamation or whatever that might be, that would give me time to do it. If there's no opposition to that, that would be my recommendation, unless there's another recommendation.
Madam President, I'm still a little befuddled by the escalation of this. This isn't an action item. This is a discussion item. Right. And the idea that we had was you know, one, the, you know, I'm kind of lost about the idea of the resolutions and proclamations. I don't know that just because other people do them or have done them makes them correct. So, I mean, if the real issue, you know, that needs to be brought before the board is if they can do resolutions or proclamations, you know, I don't know if you're going to act against advice of counsel, we can get you advice of counsel, but I think that's a moot discussion. The question is, for proclamations, do you want to keep adding to them and adding to them and adding to them? If you want to limit them, what would be the criteria? And it's not an action item, so there is, you know, I don't think unless you want to bring something forward for action later that there was a high demand for backup material either. This is the last list we gave you.
So just so I'm clear, because we could be here all day debating what, I'm not sure what we're debating, but you attached the annual proclamations that we currently have as supporting documentation, correct?
It's exactly the same list we showed you last time.
Okay, I got that. And the conversation now is, do we, in a nutshell, I'm gonna put it in a box. Do we want to keep adding proclamations on top of proclamations and having each board bring proclamations at whatever that may be and continue adding this as it continues to grow?
And we're working on the assumption that we're not doing resolutions because of the advice of counsel.
That's,
it seems,
yes, I understand
there's a
that.
difference of opinion on that as to whether we should be doing resolutions.
Right, that's
or
a whole
not.
different issue that I would suggest we seek legal counsel and get
Seems like
that.
we need to do that first.
I would agree.
Yeah, related to the resolution that, yeah, I'm more than happy to get legal counsel advice, but I'm also more than happy to table that conversation and start a new conversation so we can go over our current proclamations right now, which, I mean, there's any months or any weeks that we can think of that we want to have recognized throughout our school year for our students, for members of our community. I'm more than happy to have that conversation.
So I think I'll ask the rest of the board, are you comfortable now? Or, because this is kind of all, you know, and I don't know anyone's had a chance to really absorb all that. Are you comfortable just discussing the proclamations that we have currently in place for the months that's listed as just general discussion? Or would you prefer to table that and then have that first, we'll seek legal counsel and then have those proclamations and then to give you time to think about it and add more or less if you feel that would be appropriate and how we would do it? I'm at looking for board direction.
I'm a bit confused as to what's going on here. But that being said, there are certain things in areas I see where we might want to put a proclamation, but I do think we should table it at this time because there seems to be a bit of confusion.
Okay. Anyone disagree with that?
It's not necessarily a disagreement. I am totally fine with tabling and having this other conversation. One thing I am cautious about is, while I like proclamations, I like us as a board making a stand and saying we are together and saying something, I also don't want to be caught up in making proclamation after proclamation after proclamation and not really putting forth effort, or it just seems behind it. Like, I don't want to keep making 5 proclamations a month or something like that and we're not doing anything with it, because I feel like if we make, as a board, if we make a proclamation, we're standing firm on that and that belief, and all of us have different beliefs that could be diverse, and so I would like to make sure that we stay with educational proclamations and things like that, or things that are supporting our students in our community.
Thank you. I think that's very well said. That is the goal of a proclamation, is to support teachers, students, community, staff. And those, once they're said, they're not my views, they're not your views, they're the views of what's in the best interest of the district, our children, our parents, and all of that. So with it, I think at this point we will table this item and bring it back at a future date when we're all a little bit clearer on what we're doing and what our thought is. And it maybe just come back as a general discussion item of how many proclamations should we have? What would it look like? More generalized than it is tonight. So with that, we will table it. It is a discussion item, so I do not need action or a vote on it. So I will move on to Ms. Garrison to talk about the parent informational collateral.
Thank you, Madam President and Governing Board. Thanks for allowing me a few minutes on the agenda to give you an update on a parent informational piece that your communication team has been working on. We actually started this project some time ago when President Reyes brought the idea of a brochure for parents designed by parents. So we started out thinking about what kind of information we would want to put in there. And what I've attached for you today is really a draft. I'm putting a disclaimer first because I want to tell you a little bit how this grew. So the communications team got excited and we started listing some topics. And then we went to the Community Connection Committee and we brainstormed ideas from there and we got more topics and more topics. Next, the Community The Community Connections Committee is a meeting that meets quarterly and consists of staff members and parents. We've had this item on the agenda twice so far, and the interesting part is the book was growing, and what you have attached is a draft, which will be morphed into now what we think will become at least 2 different projects, because it was getting bigger and bigger. And then we went back and said, now wait, what is it that you as a parent want to see in there? Because you see how this could just keep going, right? So as more parents took a look, we're finding that it's too much for the original intended purpose. And the next time you see it, you're going to see the shortened version. So I want to walk you through. We're working on less words and more pictures. Okay, that was one of the big feedback that we got recently. And at the suggestion of the, you can stay right there, Jim, for right now, that's perfect. At the suggestion of the reviewers, we're going to keep a little introduction, a few less words on this page, but we're going to go to the school choice page, if you'll flip there. We're going to add some QR codes, and there was a big discussion on, do we take the QR codes to the websites or the Facebook pages? And the team that would look, the parents that have looked at it so far thought Facebook pages, because it's almost real time what's happening in the classrooms, that you'd get better information if you inserted a QR code there. So we're looking to make that change. Okay, so Jim, we're going to flip a bit. This first page, we said the intro, sorry, we'll be condensing. The values. Now, this was an interesting story that I shared with Dr. Freeman after I came out of this meeting, and he's like, oh, tell them that. We had a turning point here with our values. They were interwoven, and we started the discussion, is that an internal thing, right? That means a lot to us if you work here or lead here. And the people who have looked at it so far were pretty adamant that they wanted the trust, respect, integrity, dedication, and collaboration left in there, even if we gave it less real estate, because they said it's what we are, it's what we stand for, and that our parents would like to know what they stood for, what we stood for. And I was very interesting. I was excited that that happened. So the safety page, if you'll flip there, Jim, everyone so far has agreed that parents are interested in safety, so we're going to continue to develop that page. It will stay. And then there's a couple random pages that you see with mostly with black and white. And really, that was our brainstorming. Keep going a little bit. It was really brainstorming. These are unfinished pages. And so we went through these and we said, stay or go. And things like signature field trip, they thought we should leave something in there, just a little bit about that. PD for staff, they threw out. All-day kindergarten, they thought super huge, that stays in. Expanded preschool, absolutely there with the Head Start partnership, how many spots we had, school focus, and summer learning opportunity, they left. So we went through that exercise as well. So I just want you to know that this is not even close to the finished project, just kind of gives you a look for how the feel is. We're exploring how we might incorporate some of the monitor and report data that might be of interest to the parents, whether it's just a few quotes, a few numbers splashed in there. And they kept using the word splash as we were talking to parents. Splash. Like they were telling us they don't want to read that many words that's on that page that's up there right now, right? Quick. But we also had a discussion about how good schools affect property values and how that could be important to parents. So that's being considered to make the final cut. So we'll work with Mr. French in his office on how we might talk about fiscal responsibility and maybe some truth in taxation and those type things, because the group thought that that was a missing piece from here. Another missing piece that they noted was they wanted to give a little bit more real estate to what happens at the Family Welcome Center. They thought that that should give a little bit more press, would be interesting to the community. The Dr. Freeman's Parent Advisory Group will be asked to look it over and comment, and the Community Connection Group has it again on their agenda in January to look at it after we condense it back down. And I'm guessing with what we saw today that I can talk a few of our I Survived Underdown parents and grandparents into commenting for us on what the content of this is. Because we're really trying to hit the content for what parents want, because this is supposed to be written by the parents for the parents. So we're going to continue on. It's our goal to have a final version to the printer by Valentine's Day, and I look forward to sharing a final project with you, a final product, I mean. Of course, we have some governing board members who is not only their idea, but we're also parents and grandparents, so I would love your feedback as well. So if you have, oh, here goes Amy, let's go.
I almost don't want to say this because I feel like I'm adding to your never-ending book here. I feel like maybe a little bit more about the Boys and Girls Club and the connection we have there.
That was on there.
Might be
That was something we got to, yes. Boys and Girls Club. And the other thing I didn't say, go to the back page. No, we're definitely going to use this somewhere else if Jim, you scroll. This was so cool for us, and we will use it somewhere on something internally. These are over, really, Dr. Freeman's tenure here are different themes throughout the year, but it's not anything externally. The parents told me, remove that and put our partners in there. And they also told me to make sure that I highlighted the Boys and Girls Club. So yes.
I just feel like that's a pivotal thing for our parents to know, that if they need to use the Boys and Girls Club, we have buses that will pick up and drop off from there.
Absolutely.
So,
anything else come to mind right off the top of your head?
Comments, questions?
So I'm looking at the second, yeah, this is the first page right after the title page, and where it talks about the About Us and the history. I love that. Where it talks about going back to 1912 and that picture. I know this is from parents for parents, but I think it would be awesome if you could find a couple more older pictures. I don't know.
Okay, no, I'm with you. So when this Underdown group, Dan and I are building a relationship with them, they're asking us for memorabilia, and we're asking them.
Okay.
And they are posting. It is so cute, the stuff they are posting.
Well, so my husband grew up just
Right.
around the corner from here, and he went to Underdown, and he was the first graduating class from Westview. But I mean, he grew up here. This is his home. He went to Littleton. Kathy, you know. But he shares so many memories, and he has so many stories. And I just seeing this picture right here, this black and white picture is like,
And perhaps we can get a quote from our esteemed senator.
I can make that happen if that's what you want.
Yeah, you'll see. We are collecting quotes from parents and collecting quotes from vendors. You'll see that in here. And some of our Boys and Girls Club do have a quote in here. Our VitaTex partners put a quote in here. Our Play and Learn partners for our early literacy classes that happen at the Welcome Center.
Yeah, you just let me know.
Yes.
I'll make it happen.
And just like the last item, as you guys come up with ideas, please feed them to Ada, and she'll get them to us, because we're going to be messing with it for the next couple weeks before we go to press for the first iteration.
Yeah, this is awesome, though. I love it. I think it's amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know it's a lot of work. This idea came, I was at some conference, I can't tell you when or where.
School boards.
Thank you. Good thing you remember. I do not. But there was a school presenting, and they had tried many different things that hit home for us of how to get community engaged. What would it, and they had touched on many things we had. And the superintendent stood up and said, really, of all the things I could share with you, and he gave me a brochure. And he said, this brochure is parents, it's by parents for parents. And it was so powerful when I looked at it. I'm thinking, this is so simple. Why don't we have something? And he said, of all the things they have done and all the money they had spent, that was the tool that touched the community. It got the community engaged going, and they brought stories of different generations that had been there. And so that's how the idea came. So it certainly caught my eye, because he was talking about how much money they had spent trying to get community engagement and all that, and none of it worked. But this little, they had just a trifold. They didn't have a book, but they had this trifold, kind of double-sided, and he said this was it. And that was interesting. So thank you for taking it and running with it. We'll be excited to see the end result, and I'm sure it's very difficult. Yeah, I think I have a picture of the ostrich farm where this was. Yeah, I have a picture of the ostrich farm that was right there. So we'll look and see what I have that you might want. Yeah. All right, so with that, we're moving on to first reading of recommended policy changes. This is a discussion, and Dr. Freeman, this is yours.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. The first item is policy A, and if Jim could pop that up. This is a fairly minor adjustment to this policy. This is generated by staff, not by school boards. We were looking at the district website and some other collateral. We realized that we had varied versions of our mission published in different places. So the finger up means I'm waiting. Okay, if you just zoom in on the top of the page, we went through all of the different versions, and this is a pretty simple edit. Learning and leading, and then opportunities instead of activities. Otherwise, everything else is in sync.
So this is the only thing you're presenting? Yes, okay. Is there questions, comments on this particular policy change? Hearing none, so that's just discussion, so we can move on.
Right. Okay, the next is policy BCB. This is a recommendation that came from School Boards Association, and this is one of the copyrighted policies that we have not amended. And if you pull this up, you'll see that there's a paragraph inserted about halfway down through the first page. There are some provisions for contractors providing services to the district, for people who are connected to school board members. And this is a new limitation. You know, I'm not sure what problem brought this about by the legislature, but essentially you can't serve on the board and then turn around and sell things to the board. There's this 2-year gap. And then on the next page, there is a deletion of some of the limits language. It's replaced by the new limits language.
Is there questions on BCB? Hearing none. Next, please.
Next policy, BDA, is again recommendation proposed by the School Boards Association. And they have in this liberalized the language. I think the policy, if you look at the bottom line, it said between January 1st and January 15th. Now it just says in January. That probably happened because of holiday schedules and whatever. Somebody's board meeting was on the 16th, and I guess that could happen in leap years and other things. So I don't think this is a real substantial substantive change. Then below that, they have the meeting shall be called to order by the vice president if the president's not here. If neither are here, then until a new president is elected, you need to select a temporary president. Somebody needs to preside on the meeting. So the president and the vice president are both absent. There would have to be a point of order where somebody would be elected as temporary president. Then you could move into the agenda to organize the board. We've never had that being a problem, but I guess, in anticipation that it might And then there were things in here like a person is not a board member, changing to no longer a board member. There's some things that seem semantic. I don't really understand why they're important. And then the board may elect a board president at any time for any reason, providing the matter is handled in a way consistent with open meeting law, and that just means posted in advance and considered by a quorum in public. I don't think those are changes that would create any problems for the board. Any questions?
Doesn't seem so.
Everybody good?
Yep.
Okay. Next is policy BE, school board meetings. I think this is a residual of some of the controversy that happened during COVID. You'll see inserted, again, about a half-third of the way down, you have to provide sufficient seating. We never had that as a problem. However, it doesn't require the public body to relocate a meeting outside or to a larger room if a lot of people show up. And the notice of the agenda include, discuss, decide the meeting information, how the public may get a copy, except for meetings through technological devices. The agenda shall also include notice of time and place of the meeting. So there's a realization that, during the pandemic, some meetings were held, digitally and remotely. And so it would be a conflict to provide seating if we were remote.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
Nope.
Okay, next is policy BEDA, notification of board meetings. So I guess there's clarification of time and place that people were concerned about. In the very first paragraph, it explicitly states, except for a meeting through technological devices, the agenda notice shall also include the time that the public will have physical access to the meeting place. So we've actually, as we went through COVID, we've modified the little preamble paragraph because if people had called to the public, how they could submit that and when it could be submitted by, and the same thing, modified that to essentially, when the doors are open for people to be able to arrive and be seated. And I don't know if some people got locked out of meetings or what may have happened, but again, that's a reference to statute.
Okay.
Any questions?
No.
Okay, and so last one, there's one more in this section, BEDB. Following right along behind, the first reading of the governing board agenda item with language indicating the order of business. And so really all that we changed was at the top, the order of business shall be as follows. It may be changed unless an objection is made by a member of the meeting. I think what we've said before is a point of privilege of the president. So the thing that Littleton added to this is in special meetings, if you look at the last paragraph, I think that's where, no, where is it at? I'm not seeing it here. We made a rule that in special meetings, if there's an action item, there also has to be a call to the public. And that might be in another policy. I remember doing that, but I don't see it here. Otherwise, that's the only change. Order of business may be changed unless there's an objection.
Yes, sir.
I know other school districts do, where at the end of the meeting, which, I mean, you're saying new business, but they have a special section at the end of the meeting before they adjourn, where they ask, the president asks the members of the board or the members of administration if they would like any questions or any items that they would like to see added to the agenda for the next meeting or for further discussion. I know this is a practice in Towson Union that was recently shared with me, so I think that it'd be just something I wanted to share and see how you all felt about adding that at the end of a meeting before adjourning. You would just, does any member of the board have any items that they would like to?
So is it basically asking if there's any future agenda items?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, future agenda items. Yeah.
Concerns with adding that? Any concerns? No, it's simple and straightforward, so if, I know we're not voting, but that is the recommendation at this point, so. All right, thank you, Dr. Freeman. We're turning it over to you, Mr. French.
Madam President, policy EBC on emergencies is a School Boards Association recommended policy change. They inserted a sentence in the middle of the policy that reads, emergency response plans developed by the governing board are required to address how the school and emergency responders will communicate with and provide assistance to students with disabilities. District feels like this is a reasonable request and that's something we can add to our emergency response plan.
Any concerns or questions? Hearing none, thank you very much. We'll move on to Dr. Haid.
Madam President, members of the board, I have one policy and one exhibit for you this evening. It is a recommendation from the School Boards Association. We have been required to have one staff member on each site trained in dyslexia services for children. It was really specific that we have a kindergarten through third grade teacher. They have amended this to allow us to include a literacy coach or literacy specialist, so it just broadens the range of staff members for us to meet this requirement.
Questions? Yes, ma'am.
This is very minute, but at the very top, this title is all blended into one word.
Member Soshnik, I did notice that right before I started talking, and so we will fix, actually, Mrs. Sillis has to upload these, and so she will fix it for us. But thank you for pointing it out.
It's the teacher in me, I guess.
I get it. I get it.
Thank you. Ms. Garrison, this is yours.
Okay, I'll bring us on home. I have a series of policies here, Madam President, Governing Board. JFA-BADA, admission of students in foster care. You'll see, there you go. Section A was added to the first page of this policy to call for a meeting when a student enters into foster care. When the team assembles, they decide if it's in the best interest of the child to remain in the school of origin or transfer to the school in the district which they now reside. So it is a team decision, and it is something that we participate in already. So that was the change there. There's also a statement added that states every attempt should be made to provide records within 2 business days, and some clarification about how transportation for a foster child can work.
Questions? Hearing none, thank you.
The next 3 are super similar. JK, JKD, and JKE. It really is talking about where a school district is exempt from having to meet the prescribed criteria for a student in grades K4 if the student possesses a firearm, or this is where we were not allowed to suspend students who were K4, so that's been reversed, and now there's 2 exemptions that were spelled out there. There was also a clause inserted about aggravating circumstances that could be considered to suspend, and right now the suspension, the rules have changed so that you can suspend up to 2 days at a time, not to exceed 10 days in a school year. That was JK. JKD added the exact same language. Can expel due to a student's possession of a firearm or 1 or 2 days at a time up to 10. That's all that was added to that one. And expulsion was the same. They just mimicked.
Good. Thank you.
Policy, any questions about those? No. Okay, policy JLH, missing students. The only change here was changing the window to request records. It was 5 days. They opened it to 10. And that was because of House Bill 2060 and ARS 15828. Just put it in line with the language in there. Questions?
No.
Okay, and the last one is a regulation, which mirrors what I just talked about. It changes the 5 days to 10 days that you have to request the records.
Thank you.
That's it. Nothing big. Minor changes in mine.
With that, hearing no questions, I will call for an adjournment at 7:59.
I'll second.
Oh, I move the board adjourn at 7:59.
Thank you. So I do have a motion, and Amy seconded, so thank you. We are adjourned.